black listeners turned away from Tyla after she rejected being black while embracing the very apartheid-era classification of being colored, a label designed to keep black Africans at the bottom. Choosing to distance herself from the word black isn't just a personal preference, but it's tied to a caste system still alive in South Africa today. Apartheid was South Africa's version of Jim Crow, but apartheid took it further, making racial classification and segregation a nationwide, meticulously enforced law that controlled every part of life. During apartheid, South Africans were classified into rigid racial categories: white, the ruling privileged class; colored, people of mixed heritage, often given more rights and resources than black Africans, but still oppressed; and black, the majority group placed at the very bottom, with the harshest laws, restrictions, and poverty. The term colored wasn't just a neutral label, it was a political tool. When Tyla was so appalled at the thought of being black, it's because where she comes from, the colored label is designed to make her feel that she's better than the blacks.
Now, if you guys, I don't know if all of you guys are familiar with Tyla. She's a South African singer who became popular, I think, a couple of years ago with her song Water. And she did pretty well. She's won a Grammy. So she's done pretty well for herself. But recently, she put out an EP that only sold about 3,000 or more than 4,000 units at this point. People are calling it a flop. So people are saying that this is her wake-up call because of the way she presented herself in Black America, in the United States. How some say she seems arrogant, some says, you know, she comes off as if she's better than other people, and that she didn't want to identify as black, which kind of turned off a lot of black supporters who would normally support her. It turned them off because they felt like she doesn't identify as them, so they refused to support her album. And this is why they're saying this album is a flop, because she only sold about 3,000 units. If you come here and you're not familiar with your demographics and the people who support and buy your and patronize and buy your albums, or you patronize your work, then you're going to find yourself in a very sticky position. And this is for all artists. This is not just for Tyla. This is for any artist who decides to put out a body of work, put out music. It is very difficult for you to cross over and gain worldwide success if you don't, you know, start with the grassroots of supporters. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue though.
But Tyla is finding out the hard way. When you come into the American market trying to blend into black culture and collect black dollars, you don't get to disrespect us and skate by. In America, the word colored was plastered on signs to tell us we weren't good enough to drink from the same fountains, use the same restrooms, or even eat at the same counters as white people. This isn't about forcing someone to change their heritage, but understanding how these labels were built to uphold white supremacy.
No, me and holding awards. I'm not strong enough. Please. Oh, yeah, but me. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
This was the beginning of the end for Miss Tyla. This was the last time that Black Americans, Black American women tried to correct her or help her in any way, shape, or form when it came to social graces or anything to do with the music industry. Because at this final time, when trying to just get like a little bit of help, her fans once again came out to be crazy. That is when her fans came out en masse and told Black American women basically that we need to get over ourselves and that there are stars all over the world and that we are not the main topic of conversation. When in fact her record label thought the complete opposite and spent tens of millions of dollars trying to promote her towards Black American women. And I fear they also saw the writing on the wall, which is why when you look her up, there are nothing but PR fluff pieces about her fashion, about her look, nothing really about her music, but about little things about her, trying to make her an icon in any way, shape, or form. Even going to weird extremes, like hosting the Kids' Choice Awards. Like, what about her is kid-friendly? Quickly. It literally was like a grasping at straws to see what would stick before this debut album. And it turns out nothing stuck except for her hating on Black Americans. Like, that is the only thing that seems to be sticking to this girl. And it's sad because she really did have a lot of potential to becoming like the next Rihanna, because the world is hungry for something like that, because Lord knows Rihanna's not giving it to us. But Rihanna also knew how to play the game. She didn't look at Americans and say, your shit is trash, I'm only gonna make music from my own culture and you're gonna like it. She honestly didn't do that until after she was famous. like big famous. So the fact that Tyla wanted to just call the shots off bat and thought that that's the way this goes, no, Miss Ma'am, this is America. Hollywood has rules, and especially Black Hollywood.
You know, she's absolutely right, and the writing is on the wall. What she said about Rihanna. You know, if you come here, you have to play the rules. You have to play by the game. It's a game, really, to catapult you to success. And if you come out the gate with a mentality that you don't have to play by those rules, that you're going to do what you want to do, especially as a Black artist or at whatever, you know, however you identify, especially if you're you know, you look Black, and you know, whether she identifies as Black or not, she looks Black, then you're going to have some issues. You know, and she's right. We're not once that we knew Rihanna came from Barbados. We know where she's from. But she didn't have this air of arrogance or, you know, like she's owed something. She seemed very humble, and she just shut up and did her work and put out good music, and it catapulted her to the success that she has today. Now, if she wants to put out music more of her style or from her culture or whatever, I think it would be more acceptable because she's proven herself and she's made her mark. But you can't just come out the gate thinking that you've arrived, that you're already here, because there's a lot of work to do. And you got to understand who the people are that support you. You got to make sure you're catering to the people that support you, because if you don't, then you know you don't get that support. And that's just as simple as that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no ways around it. It's been working like that for years, and there's no way around it. They can try to push you and catapult you to success. If people are not feeling it, if they don't like something about you or multiple things about you, if you piss them off in a way that, you know, that pisses them off, they're not going to support you, and your career and your music will suffer. That's just how it is. That's why, you know, a lot of people say the music business is a business, and it's a tough one to crack. If you're coming into this country, you have to know how to play by the rules. You don't get a head start. You don't get a way to bypass that. No, because the people are the ones who make you. You can have PR, management, record labels, and all of that. They could put a lot of money into you, all the things that they need to do to make you successful. But if the people don't support you, then there's nothing else that anybody else can do. If people don't like you and they don't buy into you, then it's a wrap. Let's continue.
And I want this to dead any diaspora talk that Black Americans, Black American women do not have any voice or say so when it comes to culture, because clearly we do.
When Tyla said on that interview and Charlamagne asked her that question about how she identifies, and she turned and hit that and looked at him and didn't say nothing else, I knew it was going to be a problem. And to preface this, I really like Tyla. Like, when she came out, her music, her vibe, her energy, her fashion sense, the whole 9 yards, right? And when I like an artist, I like to watch their interviews, watch their performances. That's how I like to get to know a new artist and things like that, right? So I was actually waiting for the Breakfast Club interview to drop when she had it. And I remember when it dropped, I watched it. Literally, as soon as it dropped, I watched it on YouTube, right? And when it got to that point of the interview, when he asked her about her identity and she turned and looked at him and didn't say nothing, I literally was like this watching the interview, because I was like, anything that she does after this interview is not going to hit right. Why? Because she just offended a culture that when they're offended, you're going to feel it, which is the Black culture. When you offend Black people, rub Black people the wrong way, you will feel it. Whether people want to admit it or not, you will feel it. Then to top it all off, we live in a very much so got you culture over here in America. I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but over here in America, we definitely live in a I got you culture. And what I mean by that is, if you do something that negatively rubs another group of people or an opposing side, what's going to happen is they're going to sit back for something horrific or bad or awful to happen to you. And then they're going to point it out, highlight it, and celebrate it. We've seen it with Target. Whenever their stocks go down or something like that, it's highlighted and talked about. We've seen it with Mooney Long. When she said what she said to the Black women and things like that, now that we're not hearing music from her or anything like that, that's being highlighted and laughed at. Those poor kids over in Texas that got hit by that storm, when people found out that some of their parents voted for Donald Trump, they began to laugh and point at them people losing their kids. This is what we're seeing with Tyla. She said something that offended the community over here in the United States. She released the album in the United States. It didn't do well. Those same people that she offended is now standing back, highlighting it, pointing and laughing, saying, ha, ha, ha. You went from being looked at up to highly and, being looked forward to in the music industry to now there's people on a vast scale celebrating the downfall of your project that you put out.
Tyla, the streets are saying that EP sold 2 fillet of fish and a basket of fries. Step into my office immediately. First, you need to decide who is going to be your core fan base. If it is white people or a more global sound, then I need you to go to Europe. The whites there, they love that. They love it down. But here in America, it's not happening. It's not happening. So if you want a more global, more type of fan base, go to Europe. Go to the Beans and Toast. They will embrace you. On the other hand, if you want more Black American support to push your music and propel it forward, which I would argue is how your music started going forward with Water in the beginning, then you're going to have to wrestle with how you feel about being called Black in America.
Yeah, and I think she's absolutely right. And another thing too, I will say, as for Black artists, it's like you have to be solidified within the Black community first. Other demographics of people don't accept you or embrace you or make you popular until you are, it's like you got to go through it's like the grassroots. You got to go through, R&B if you're an R&B artist, or you got to go through the Black radio stations. You got to go through them first. That you go through them. Even other artists do that as well. They go to the Black radio stations first. They go to all the popping spots in the Black community and get themselves known, get a name for themselves then, and then they rise from there. And then whether you get to the point of crossing over or not, Whitney Houston was, they were wanting, looking at her as a pop artist, but as far as the Black community, they saw her as more of an R&B artist, but they were selling her as pop. And so Black people had a problem with even Whitney, the fabulous Whitney Houston, who was super talented, had an issue with her at the Soul Train Music Awards because they thought she was selling out when she, had that blondish, light color hair, and they booed her. I think it was at the Soul Train Music Awards. They talked about that, how that hurt her so much because she felt like that was her people. And she didn't want her people to feel like she was alienating them or neglecting them because, a lot of times you go through them first before you rise above it. And so Black people are accepting of that because if they like you, if they support you, they want to see you elevated. They want to see you get to the top. But if you go about it the wrong way, then it could backfire. If you do things that will upset your core, then you're going to have a problem moving on and moving higher from that. A lot of people think that when you come into the business that you got to sound, as a Black artist, that as a Black artist, you're just going to go straight pop and you're going to blow up and all the white people and all the others are going to support you and make you famous to the highest degree. It doesn't work like that. It just does not work like that. You got to go, especially for a Black artist. See, if you have a white artist, they can go pop because they're expected to. When you're a Black artist, they expect you to do R&B, something that's more along the Black realm. It's unfortunate that you have to be put in a box like that, but that's how you either one or the other. What are you? And if you can get to a point where you can elevate, then you can cross over if you can. But once again, you have to choose a lane of where you want to be. You just can't jump in thinking, I want to appeal to everyone. Of course, most artists want to appeal to everyone. But in that business, it just doesn't happen like that. It's only a select few who have been able to master that at a high level. That is not the majority of people in that industry. And so I just think for Tyla, maybe this is a wake-up call for her to realize that you got to do some more work, and you got to really understand how this thing goes and how it works. And there's no exceptions for anybody. There's no exceptions. Everybody has to go through it. Let's continue.
Even if you are not black in your country, you will be black here. And you are not ambiguous enough to get away with saying you're not black when you look like the exact black people that are telling you that you're black. Sorry. So you need to decide, and your fan base also needs to decide, or whatever you choose, you need to tell them to get in line behind you. Second thing, Tyla, what promo did you do? I had no idea you had an EP coming out until the report said it sold double fried fish. So what radio stations did you go to? The Breakfast Club is right here. Like, what magazines have you been on? Apple Music. Like, there are ways that you could be pushing your EP and no one has heard about it. No one knows about it. Even if you want to go to the UK has how many stations? You could be doing a chicken shop date with that white lady with the bangs. So I'm telling you, Tyla, I need you to rework your marketing, but you first need to decide who is your core fan base. Because it's not going to keep working if you keep doing it like this. Get to work.
Tyla's album didn't flop because of Black Americans. Tyla's album is flopping because her fans essentially set her up for failure by being xenophobic, especially towards Black Americans, and claiming that we lack culture. After her using the term color to describe herself, a term that is frequently used for her specific ethnic group within South Africa, but is derogatory and roots from racism and slavery in America. Black Americans have single-handedly been the backbone for American music throughout Hollywood and mainstream media forever, essentially. And a lot of genres of music are rooted in Black American culture. So as a foreigner, to not educate yourself on how certain terms that may be familiar to you are not appropriate to use when you are going to another country and when you are trying to assimilate into a new culture is really just a failure on her PR and her management's part. However, to play devil's advocate, Black Americans have also made it a point to separate themselves from Africans. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because we are very different culturally, as is every single different country in Africa.
And it's interesting, and I'm glad she brought that up, because this is not the time for someone like Tyla to actually be, trying to almost separate herself from Blackness when we're seeing a more, Black Americans separating themselves from Africans. We see tons and tons of videos of Black Americans delineating themselves from Africans and African culture because we are not the same. I think this was probably not the best time for Tyla to even release an EP or an album or whatever. Let's continue though.
But we have made it a point to specifically separate ourselves, and not necessarily even in the best ways. A lot of times it has been very derogatory. I remember growing up, I used to hear the term African booty scratcher used to refer to Africans as primitive or less than and lacking. And it essentially was a slur to separate us from them. So with African music becoming more popular within mainstream American music, instead of bridging the gap, it has only increased that gap. With Africans not wanting to be grouped together with Black Americans and vice versa, and celebrating those downfalls and differences, instead of using our similarities to be grouped together, because that's what we'll all be seen as.
We tried to help Tyla, but her team thought she was bigger than the program. Her team did not understand African American influence in the U.S. Ain't nothing cool till we say it's cool. We got on social media, gave our feedback. I made a video months and months ago. Got on here giving feedback about how we feel and what's going on. Had they just took that into consideration and started changing stuff, but they wanted to appease certain people. And y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all wanted to appease certain people. Little did you know, it's us. Because these labels don't care about nothing until we say it's cool. They looked at the feedback they seen online and was like, no, because we don't have an audience for you. The audience we would aim for, they mad at you. And here you are thinking it's funny talking about all this uppity African stuff when we're just trying to let you know that what you're doing and how you're moving, it does not how it work over here. Now you got them 4,000 album sales. Then y'all thought because she got a Grammy that she was winning. No. Don't nobody care about the Grammys over here. Like, Grammys don't mean the Grammys don't equivalent to money over here. The Grammys don't equivalent to success. Yeah, we want to see our favorite artists get a Grammy, but just because you get that Grammy don't mean you got it the right way, don't mean it was fair. I mean, just look how they did Beyonce. Then she got on the Breakfast Club, one of the #1 African-American media outlets, and acted like that. Just go watch it. Just go watch the interview. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Then she made the whole uppity African thing a joke. It's not a joke. That was actually feedback, and you made it a joke, and that's what really made a lot of people turn away from her. Beautiful girl, beautiful gowns, but the problem is that y'all thought that was enough, and it's not enough. And it's very clear that Americans, we love Afrobeat. We do. We've always embraced other cultures.
Right.
But they also knew how to come over here and act. That's how you're supposed to do. If you want a fan base, you do have to appease to that fan base.
Exactly.
And vice versa. If an American artist was to want a bigger following in Africa, more than likely they're gonna have to make or create some songs that appeases to that part of the world. It is marketing. It is all marketing. But you cannot get over here and be doing all that shit. It's like coming at somebody's house just acting a damn fool, not knowing how to take your shoes off and all that. You cannot. You just, bro. I have talked about this in the past till my face was down there blue. Okay, I don't understand how people don't comprehend the problem with Tyla. I don't get it.
Yeah, very valid points you're making, and that's just what it is. I don't know how they missed the mark on this, but hopefully they can recover. Hopefully they can, make amends and continue to put out great music that people like and music that her fan base will love. Now, who is her fan base? That's the thing. You have to know your audience. You have to know where your money, where the dollars coming from, because none of this ain't gonna make no sense if it ain't making no dollars. If it ain't making no money, it ain't making no sense. The music business is a business, and the minute you can't bring that money in, then you're no longer useful to the powers that be. So listen, I want to hear your thoughts on this particular video. Chime in, comment, like, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when I upload new content, y'all. Chime in. I want to hear your thoughts on the whole record industry and how it works. And let me know if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying and what the people said in this particular video as well. So I'm going to leave it here. Thank y'all so much for watching. Y'all stay tuned for more, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.